Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The previous episode or the previous lesson, we took a few masail with regards to buyu', buying and selling. After that, whoever has studied in the Hanafi books, you'll find they're speaking about murabaha and tawliyah, which is quite simple and straightforward. However, murabaha is when you buy something and you want to sell it for a profit, from the word ribh, ra, ba, and ha. And this murabaha, it has its asl, or it has its origin in the Sharia. Okay? Then thereafter, you what's happened later on is people have taken this concept and tried to apply it to the banking masail. So generally, what's murabaha? Generally, murabaha is if somebody takes a product, let's say you've got this gadget, this phone, for example, and they're selling it for 1,000. Okay. And you buy it from this person, and then you're selling it, and you tell the person who you're selling it to, for example, I'm making 10% on it. So you will be selling it for 1,100. Okay. And what used to happen, and it still does happen today, where is the person telling you the truth or not when they're telling you about their profit margin? So these are masail not in the book, but related to this topic. If you're in business, you don't have to tell somebody how much profit you're making. So you don't say, for example, I'm making nothing or I'm making 100% or whatever it may be. You don't have to tell them. However, sometimes you find that for people or shopkeepers, because they want people to buy, they say, I promise you, I'm not making any money on it. Or they say, I've only put a markup of 5%. If they're telling the truth, there's no problem. However, if they're not telling the truth, this is where this mas'ala comes in. If the shopkeeper tells you that I'm only putting 10% on top, and later on you had to find out that he's put more than 10%, here, according to one of the opinions in the madhab, you will be, if you had to find out, you'll be allowed to either carry on with the deal, or you can ask to go back on the deal. You can ask for fasakh, to cancel the contract that was between the two of you. Okay? So that's why they mention, or that's one of the reasons they mention murabaha. But the idea behind murabaha is you're buying something for a fixed price and then you're putting a small markup on it. And what they've done with this concept is they've taken it to the banking masail. So you hear a lot about murabaha, murabaha, murabaha. And that's when they buy for you shares, for example, or they agree on a fixed investment instrument or fixed investment product, etc. And all that is in banking. And inshallah, hopefully, after you understand this, we'll go through that. So that's murabaha. And tawliyah, the word tawliyah, ta, wow, lam, ya, and around ta. That's when a person says he's neither making a profit on it, nor is he making a loss on it. He's selling it at cost price. And then they mention a few masail with regards to it. However, those are all mainly common sense or basic masail. Thereafter, they move on to Babur Riba. Babur Riba is the chapter of interest. And inshallah, today I'll give you an overview of the main masail in interest, and we'll go through them one by one. So, interest, as we know, in Islam is prohibited, is haram, is not allowed. What exactly is interest? For you to understand what's interest, you've got to know that there's two types of interest. A lot of people don't know this, but there's two types of interest. The first is riba al-fadl, okay, fa, dad, and lam. And the second is riba nasi'ah, noon, and then you've got a sin, ya, alif, and ta, nasi'ah. Fadl is what we all know, where if you delay to pay, they ask you to pay more on a loan, for example. So if I gave you $100, I told you that pay by tomorrow, and if you don't pay, then we will increase. So that's what the banks do, for example. That's how the banks make money, and that's why they encourage you to borrow. They encourage you to take out money on credit because they know a certain percentage of people are not going to pay. So this riba, this interest is haram. In Islam, a loan should be given to help somebody. You're not allowed to profit off a loan because it causes problems, as you can see in the world we live in today with the banking infrastructure, etc. You find all these crashes and depressions and with regards to the stock market, etc., because it's all based on riba and interest. One of the reasons, if you had to look at it from just a purely logical point of view, a person who's just lending money and profiteering off this money, okay, they're not adding anything valuable to society. All you're doing is, all this person is doing is, for example, they're taking a portion of money and they're giving this one. And for you to lend, especially big amounts, you generally have a lot of wealth. So you're lending to this person. Your money is guaranteed and they're paying you more on it. So Islam doesn't want this concept. Allah said this is haram. That's why He says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Rather, business transactions are permissible. Why? We want this business person to take a risk. In Islam, there must be risk and reward when you're doing a transaction. You can't have guaranteed profit. So the minute somebody tells you, for example, we got an investment. What's the investment? You give us so much and you guaranteed. The minute they say you guaranteed to make a certain percentage every month, then that uh, most likely, more often than not, falls into or under the category of interest, if not all the time. Why? Because there's supposed to be a risk, there's supposed to be a reward. If you're doing business, there's a possibility you may lose or you may gain a lot. So in Islam, we don't want you to do this. And this is the first type of riba or interest, riba al-fadl. Okay? Then you've got riba al-nasi'ah. What's riba al-nasi'ah? You're not charging more, okay? You're not charging more. However, there's certain products and certain mediums of exchange, money, which must be hand to hand. The word nasi'ah comes from the word nasa, which means to delay. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells you that when it comes to selling, for example, gold for gold, okay? Here he tells you that it must be the same amount. So 1 kg of gold for 1 kg of gold. And it must be hand to hand. Silver, if you're selling silver for silver, it must be the same amount, 1 kg for 1 kg. And it must be hand to hand. There mustn't be any delay. And when it comes to certain food items, so for example, you've got dates, you've got barley, you've got wheat, you've got salt. Those four mentioned in a hadith. If you swapping between the both of them, and I'll draw it for you just now, if it's in the same category, what they call the same jins, it must be the same amount and hand to hand. So let me draw this for you. And the asl for this, or the dalil for this, is a hadith authentic in Bukhari and Muslim. The Messenger says, "Al-dhahabu bil-dhahab, gold for gold, silver for silver, wheat for wheat, dates for dates, barley for barley, and salt for salt." So he mentions in this hadith 6 items. Okay. Now, when you look at these 6 items, you could divide them into 2 categories. There's those things which are foodstuffs. Okay, that's food. And there's those things which are a medium of exchange. Medium of exchange meaning money in our terms. So here I'm just going to put money. So here he told you that what falls under this category, you've got gold and silver. I'm going to put a G and an S. It's gold and silver. Okay. What falls under this category, foods of foodstuffs? Here he told you dates. I'm putting a D there. And he told you wheat. And he told you barley. And he told you salt. Okay. Now, let's take them one by one. These two are 2 different categories or main categories. Okay, they call them ajnas. If it's gold for gold, here two conditions must be met. What are the two conditions? Hand for hand, and they must be equal amounts, 1 kg for 1 kg at the same time. If it's silver for silver, it must be two conditions met: hand, hand to hand, and the same amount. The minute, I don't know if I have another color here. The minute you're coming out of this category, you're going gold for silver, okay? Let's say you're going gold for silver. They still under this category of money. So here, one condition only has to be met. What's the condition? It must be hand to hand. However, you can charge, so for example, 1 kg of gold for 10 kgs of silver. And what falls under this category is when you're exchanging money. So dollars for pounds, okay? Dollars for dirhams, dollars for rials, dollars for whatever other currency there is. So here we'll tell you that it's similar to changing gold and silver. You can charge more. So you can say 100 pounds is going to, and you give me $150, but you have to make sure that it's hand for hand, okay? And if you're doing a transfer, if the person can prove that they've sent it to you and they've started the process, even if it hasn't reached your account, that delay we'll say is a logistical delay as long as they've sent it, okay? And then we get to the foodstuffs category. So the same thing. You've got dates for dates. So for example, 1 kg of ajwa for 1 kg of ajwa. A person might say, why would you swap 1 kg of ajwa for 1 kg of ajwa? Here we'll tell you that ajwa is different. You might have a better grade, or you might have those which are bigger, those which are smaller, etc. Somebody might say, okay, my ajwa is more valuable. My ajwa, the value is $100 for my kg, and the one that you giving me are only $50. So here there's a solution to it. What's the solution? You have to do it in two transactions, and similar with gold. Let's say 24 karat gold for 18 karat gold. Somebody says, you're making me give 1 kg of my 24 karat and I'm going to get less because I'm going to get 1 kg of 18 karat here. The Messenger ﷺ said, if you need to separate the transaction, you get to the same result, but you first sell the 24 karat gold for money, you get the money, and then with that money, you can purchase the 18 karat. Why? It's to avoid swapping gold for gold directly, number one. And number two is some of the ulama mentioned that when you separate it into two transactions, the person, after transaction number one, let's say I've sold my kg of gold and you've paid me money. I'm not bound or I'm not obliged to buy your gold. Okay. With that money, if I wanted to, I can keep it. So solution is to have two transactions. The Messenger ﷺ said that in a hadith. So similar here, if it's wheat for wheat, 1 kg for 1 kg, okay? And hand to hand. If it's barley, 1 kg for 1 kg. Salt, 1 kg for 1 kg. And if you look at these foodstuffs, these were obviously common at the time and common at our time. And one of the reasons for this, especially at the time of poverty, so again, people don't exploit other people. Somebody's in need of salt and you tell him, you know what, I'm giving you a kg on condition that you pay me after a month 2 kgs. So in order to close this door of interest and laziness and a rich person not working and not risking the capital, we said that when you're lending like this, you lend the same amount and hand to hand. Now, if you under this category, for example, okay, food, and you're doing dates or salt, okay, because again, they under this main category here, it must be hand to hand. However, the amount can differ. So it can be 1 kg of salt for 10 kgs of dates, no problem. 1 kg of salt for 10 kgs of wheat, no problem. Okay. And then I'll get another color. If you're going between these two categories, you're using money for foodstuffs or anything else, these particular foodstuffs, it doesn't have to be the same amount and it doesn't have to be hand to hand. So, for example, if you want to buy dates from somebody and you say, you know what, I'll pay you later, no problem. And if you want to buy 1 kg of dates for 1 gram of silver, no problem. Why? It doesn't have to be equal and it doesn't have to be hand to hand. So, no hadith, we broke into two categories, money and food stuff. And from there, we said gold and silver and whatever is similar to it. So, that would be your paper money, for example, in today's time. That falls under it, paper. Okay. So this also falls under it. So if you're changing pounds for pounds, you cannot charge more. Okay. And must be hand to hand. However, if you swapping between these two categories, then you can charge more and you can delay. So that's your introduction to riba. So you had riba al-fadl, where you're taking more. Riba al-nasi'ah is where there's this delay. And one of the reasons, some of the ulama mention why this type of riba is also not allowed, one of the main reasons is to avoid it getting to riba al-fadl. Okay, to avoid it getting to you charging extra. So in order to close that door, we said some things have to be hand to hand. Also, when people dispute on the rate, so when the rate of a dollar and a pound it fluctuates, and so let's say we change today when it's 1 for 2, and tomorrow the rate goes to $1.90. The person who borrowed will want to pay less, and the one who gave will say, "No, give me more." Okay, inshallah, we're going to these masail in more detail on Friday. So that's where we stop on riba. As for Bulugh al-Maram, if you have any questions for this, keep them because at the end you can ask your questions. The Bulugh al-Maram we have started with Kitab al-Taharati Bab al-Miyah. Okay, the chapter of water. We said the first hadith, Ibn Hajar rahimahullah told you that he wanted to tell you that sea water is clean. Okay. Second hadith, he started speaking about other water. And he says water, its property is it's clean and nothing makes it impure. Okay. The third hadith, he wanted to explain the word impurity, and this is just a recap for those who missed. Third hadith, he wanted to explain what does he mean by water cannot become impure. He says that as long as the color or taste or smell doesn't change with najasa, with impurity. If it had to change, we'll say this water has now become najis. Okay. And now we've reached the fourth hadith. Now, before getting to the fourth hadith, I asked Saeed a question the last lesson for this reason. When you look at water, okay, let's say you've got a bucket of water. I told you there's two main opinions when it comes to najasa, impurity getting into this water. The first opinion is we look at the quantity of water, the amount of water. If the water is a lot, okay, if the water is what they call kathir, a lot, we will go according to change. I'll explain that to you. If it's a little bit of water, the minute najasa falls into it, whether it changes its properties or not, whether the color changes, smell changes, taste changes, the minute najasa touch this water, because it's a little, we'll say it's not powerful enough to protect itself from being clean, so it becomes najis automatically, okay? So that's first opinion. They looked at quantity. Second opinion, they looked at change strictly. So they said whether the water is a little or a lot, if it had to change, then we will count it to be najis. So an example of this, if you've got a small glass of water, okay, small glass, and you had to take one drop of urine, and you had to put this drop of urine in this glass of water, if it hasn't changed any of its properties, either the smell or the color or the taste, according to the second opinion, it is still clean because they're basing their opinion on change. As for the first opinion, they'll tell you no. This is a little bit of water, it becomes najis automatically. We are not looking at change. If it's a lot, we'll consider change. So now, because Ibn Hajar, rahimahullah al-Shafi'i, and their madhab tells you that this water, we go according to the quantity. We go what's called ma'ul qalil and ma'ul kathir. A little bit of water and a lot of water. He wants to explain to you what's the definition. How do we define water as being a little or a lot? How many liters is it? 5 liters, 10 liters, 100 liters. What is it? So he gives you hadith number 4. Hadith number 4, hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, radiyallahu anhuma. He says that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, إذا كان الماء قلتين لم يحمل الخبث. He says, if the water is what's called قلتين, قلتين, and this hadith is known as hadith al-قلتين, قلتين with a dhamma here. If whoever's learnt Arabic, you would know that they have singular, dual, and plural. Dual means it's referring to two things. The amount is two. So rajulan means two men, for example. So here he's telling you if the water is equal to two qullah. So the singular for qullatain is qullah. Now what exactly is a qullah? Qullah is like a drum they would store water in. Okay? Scholars differ as to how much it is because the people of Medina, their qullah was different to the people of Iraq and different and different and different. So the people's range is anywhere between 30 liters and 100 liters, roughly around there, plus minus, where everybody was guessing. Roughly between 30 liters and 100 liters of water will give you one qullah. And why we stuck to this, some people say 200 liters. However, when you look at the linguistic meaning of qullah, or when they speak about it, they say one person could move it with difficulty. So a person is not really going to move 100 liters of water. Okay, so the Messenger ﷺ is telling you if the water has reached an amount equivalent to two qullatain, two of these qullas. So the minimum amount we'll say anywhere between 60 liters and 200 liters. Okay, he says that lam yahmil al-khabath. It doesn't hold any najasa. It doesn't become impure. So the scholars who took by this opinion, they said that this means the dabit, or the definition of a lot of water is anything equal to qullatain or above. So they said, okay, coming back to here, how do we differentiate if it's a little or a lot? They said, for example, anything that is 200 liters and above, 200 liters, and we said the minimum amount, according to say, is 60 liters. Okay, anything which is in this range and above, we'll consider it to be a lot of water. So if urine had to fall into it, stool had to fall into it, as long as it hasn't changed, we'll say because this is so much water, it can protect itself. It can protect itself from this najasa. As for anything less than this, less than 200 liters, or we said the minimum amount here, 60 liters roughly, they said that hold najasa immediately, whether it changed or it didn't. Why? Because they're using the hadith of qullatain. إذا كان الماء قلتين لم يحمل الخبث. And in another riwayah, same Ibn Hajar is telling you, وفي رواية لم ينجس. It doesn't become najis. Now, this hadith is disputed. Its authenticity is disputed. Is those who say it's authentic, so they take by hadith of قلتين. Okay? And that is your Shafi madhab and Hanbali madhab in a riwayah. And then you got those who don't take by hadith al-qullatain. So for example, the Hanafi madhab, they consider ma'ul kathir, a lot of water, to be what they call 10 dhira' by 10 dhira'. Dhira', size of from your arm here, like this. So roughly half a meter. So we'll say 5 meters by 5 meters, the Hanafi madhab consider that to be ma' kathir. And the Maliki madhab, they will go with the second opinion of taghyir, of change. Okay, so at least you get an idea of it. You get an idea of the masail, and you know when somebody said what they said, why they said it. Personally, you find a lot of ulama leaning these days towards the opinion of change because it's easier. It's easier, and you're able to save yourself from a lot of headache or a lot of issues. So again, this hadith, its authenticity is disputed. Till today, you find people who say no, it's sahih, and you find people who say no, it's da'if. And based upon that, they took their rulings. Allahu a'lam. We'll stop there. So that's your fourth hadith. So look at how Ibn Hajar went in order. Sea water, he told you, and he finished it. Then he came to normal water, and he told you that it doesn't become impure unless something happens, unless it changes. Then he wanted to tell you about a lot of water and a little water. Any questions? Thought we took the beginning and with regards to